In this video, we're going over some car engine detailing tips and reviewing a new degreaser. Now let's get straight into it. What's going on, and welcome back to the Wilson Auto Detailing community. If you're a professional auto detailer or just a car enthusiast who wants to improve your detailing ability, then definitely consider subscribing. So we're gonna detail this car engine real fast, just the tools we're using. I've got the Speedmaster brush, I've got a long handled, soft feathered brush right here, I've got Chemical Guy's long boar's hair brush here, and then the new degreaser that I'm testing out right now is by 3D Car Care. I love this company. They put out fantastic products. I've not yet tested this degreaser. It's diluted about 3 or 4 to 1 in this bottle, probably closer to 3 to 1, and it's orange degreaser. It's their citrus degreaser. So again, I diluted it about 3 to 1 in this spray bottle. Now I am going to be using water when I'm detailing this engine. A lot of detailers say don't use water, use a steamer, or use like the Tornador, or a tool that doesn't really put out a lot of liquid. And while I use both of those tools in certain situations to detail car engines, with engine detailing, the engine is so insulated and it's so kind of watertight that even when you spray a hose directly in here, of course I'm not going to be spraying the hose on any electrical components or anything like that, but I'm going to be using quite a bit of water to rinse all the dirt and grease and grime that the degreaser stirs up out of the engine, and it's not going to be an issue, and I'm going to show you guys that throughout this video. But again, because engines are so watertight, using a hose is just really a non-issue. So here's tip number 1. When detailers are detailing engines, you're tempted to get caught up in here down below because obviously this is the engine, and so this is kind of what you're focused on. The problem is up here under the hood is also a place that you're going to have to get, particularly if you're doing a customer's car and you only hit down here and they look up and this is all dirty. There's going to be a serious problem. So the very first thing I do before I even touch the engine is always detail under the hood here, because the water and the grease and the grime is going to, as I wash it off, it's going to drip onto this. So I obviously don't want to clean this before I do that up there. So what I'm going to do real fast is just spray the hose very lightly on these metal parts. It's not going to be super easy to clean this hood blanket right here. A lot of hood blankets are like kind of falling apart because they're just so old or haven't been cleaned very much. So I wouldn't soak the hood blanket in a lot of water or even try to clean that at too high of a degree. I'd really focus on this area, these metal parts around here. So let me bring you guys in for the before of the engine and the hood so you can see the dirt, so that we can not only understand the engine detailing tips here, but also see how well the 3D Car Care citrus degreaser actually works. So here's what the engine looks like right now. So I'm going to take you guys in for the under the hood look. Hopefully it focuses in and you guys can kind of see the dirt, the grease, and the grime. We'll take you under in this corner here. A lot of times you guys will find that engines in general, yes, they're dirty, but the dirt that's on them isn't super like stuck onto it, so it's not too difficult to clean in most cases. Of course, there are engines that have never been cleaned in like decades, which get very difficult to clean. However, this is what the hood looks like right now. You guys can see that dirt should not be very difficult to get off. Here we have the engine down here. I'll kind of rub my finger through this so you guys can see there's definitely a lot of surface dirt. And of course, down in these components of the engine, you guys can see, of course, you got a ton of regular just grease, grime, a bunch of kind of leaf stems and, I don't know, minerals, little tiny rocks in here that get in there, twigs. So all of this should be dealt with by the time we're finished, but there is the before look. So I'm gonna take my degreaser, spray it on the metal parts just like this, and I'm gonna be pretty like liberal with it. I'm not trying to hold back any. I kind of want to use more degreaser in situations like this than I normally would. So here we go. Then I'm going to take my long-handled feathered brush here, and I'm just going to scrub these parts up here that I sprayed with the degreaser. Now for some of the parts kind of back in the corners, I'm going to take my smaller long boar's hair brush right here, take the degreaser and kind of just soak the bristles, and that way I can get a little bit easier in these tighter areas. Then, just like we said we were going to do, I'm going to take the hose and spray it off. So now really what I'm doing more or less is just letting that dry. It's gonna drip continually as I start cleaning this area in here. I'm not worried about it. It's gonna drip, it's gonna dry. The hood blanket, particularly when it gets wet, tends to drip for a long time. So as that continues to drip and dry, I'm gonna go ahead and address this area. Now the number one thing that I do when I'm addressing just an engine bay, just the general area, is I'm gonna take my degreaser and I'm going to basically just soak the whole thing in degreaser and let it sit for like 30 seconds. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my citrus degreaser, do that. After I do that, I'm gonna kind of mix and match with my brushes depending on the particular area I'm working on. For example, if I'm back here in this place right below the windshield wipers, I might take my smaller brush and agitate it in there. When I'm right here dealing with the majority general area of the engine bay, I'll take my big soft feathered brush and I'll scrub it here. When I'm trying to get down in these skinnier areas, I'm gonna take my Speedmaster, go down in with that. So I'm gonna speed this up so it doesn't waste too much time, but that is gonna be my process in this. So first step, again, is just taking my orange degreaser here by 3D Car Care and spraying it everywhere I can get it. Now, one reason why I'm very, very liberal with degreaser on the engine in particular is because the dirt on engines is not normally very stuck on. It's not normally like very adhered to the surfaces. It's normally just kind of like a more surfacey dirt that's pretty easy to knock off. Sometimes when you use a lot of degreaser, the dirt will actually just kind of come off on its own and you don't even have to really scrub it. So that's one of the kind of advantages to using a lot of degreaser in a situation like this. Now, one caution I have with the Speedmaster brush is don't be jamming this down in these areas because obviously there's a lot of components down here you could dislodge. You could even like strip a wire or something like that that you don't want to do. So I am very cautious as I'm doing this not to kind of put a bunch of force into it, but just kind of looking where I'm going almost and making sure I'm not hitting any wires or electrical components that I could be damaging, and then me not be able to start this car. Now, sometimes when you're doing something like this in the summertime, the degreaser will flash dry a lot quicker. Again, if you just apply more degreaser, it's gonna loosen all that dirt back up just like it was before. So in hotter, kind of climates, you're gonna have to use even a little bit more than I'm using right now. But what I'm gonna go ahead and do, because I've addressed everything kind of in a more general way, is take my hose and wash it all off to see if I'm missing anything. So you guys saw I went ahead and blew it off with a leaf blower. It's still drying, so kind of just ignore the water spots that are still drying. Normally I would just let this dry basically before I did anything else to it. But what I want to show you is probably the most important thing about this, in that engine detailing in a sense is a little bit less detailed than other areas. What I mean by that is because, like I said earlier, the dirt on an engine is not super stuck on, many times just the pressure and the chemical of the degreaser being sprayed onto the engine itself is going to loosen the dirt to where when you hose it, it's going to come right off. So the practical kind of application to that is like down here in these areas below the engine almost, these places below the battery that you probably can't even see very well. I'm not going to take a brush down there and just start scrubbing away because there's a ton of electrical components and things that could be really jacked up if I did that. So what I really try to do is powerfully almost spray the degreaser in these areas, because when it gets sprayed and the degreaser kind of hits it at a high, sort of like a high pressure, it's going to knock that dirt loose. So even like down here where I didn't have to scrub too much, it just knocked all that dirt loose. So when I hosed it off, even though I didn't really scrub it, it just came off anyways. So that's a very, very powerful thing about engine detailing, and part of the reason why it makes it kind of easier to do, in my opinion, and it doesn't take quite as long. But you guys can see this after results. There's obviously no dirt here, no surface dirt dirt on this part, you know, no surface dirt on any of these parts at all. We got down here in the front, we got over here in the back underneath the windshield wipers. So certainly still detailing, right? Certainly still concerned about the details, but again, there are certain areas, certain shortcuts that you can take with things like this, like that tip about using just kind of pressurized degreaser to knock dirt loose rather than having to just sit there with a brush on every single area. So now what I'm gonna do is dress this engine. So when it comes to dressing an engine, there are probably like 1,000 different things you could do. I mean, just there's so many different ways to dress an engine or products to use. For example, this is More Shine Tire Shine by Stoner. I don't use this, though I know a lot of detailers who love using this to dress the engine bay. What I do is actually a little bit different. I dilute Chemical Guys VRP 5:1. So I fill this up with Chemical Guys water-based tire dressing or water-based just dressing, vinyl, rubber, plastic, and again I dilute it with distilled water 5:1 and I shake it up, and basically this is the easiest part. I'm just gonna take it and spray it all over the engine, and while it's gonna leave sort of like a white, chalky or cloudy leftover marks, that's gonna go away as it dries and kind of as it drips. Now I'm gonna really kind of focus on just spraying this on the black pieces, because when I spray it on these clear pieces or even on the painted surfaces, it's really not gonna make any difference on those. So I'm focusing on the black pieces, particularly the black rubber pieces, the black vinyl pieces, the black plastic pieces. So all up here, I'm gonna be spraying it. And again, I'm not worried about using too much. I'm not worried about the dripping. I'm just like soaking it, trying to get every area soaked with this diluted VRP. And even though it's gonna look a little uneven at first, as it dries and as it drips, it's going to start to get much more even and look really, really fantastic. So before I let it dry, because I just wanna go ahead and finish this video, this is what it looks like. Again, when it dries, it looks a little bit better because it's more uniform and it's not quite as glossy. That sort of wet, glossy look comes from it being wet and it's, you know, the solution not being dry yet. But check out what I mean with this white, chalky, kind of cloudy. This, appearance is going to disappear when it dries. Chemical Guys VRP is a white kind of jelly substance, but again, when it's dry and it's spread evenly, it does turn whatever surface it's on to that deep black look. So you can definitely see it already, how fantastic this looks, and I'll give you guys this upper view underneath of the hood, but this is what a totally dressed, clean engine looks like. I mean, it's just like pretty stunning, because even though it's not, you know, horribly dirty beforehand, when you clean it and then dress it like this and you get that kind of black to pop, it really does just change the game. So now what I want to do is turn the car on just so you guys can see that there was no damage that happened during this process. So here we go, I'm gonna hit the ignition and you can listen. Check that out. Now, you might have heard that tiny little squeak like right when it turned on. That happens sometimes. There's no damage for that. Nothing, you know, the squeaking is like negligible, right? But again, sometimes it happens for like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. In this case, it happened for like 1 second. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all. However, you guys can see that there's no damage. So what I will do now is go ahead and let the engine run for like 5 to 8 minutes, just because as the engine heats up, it is going to heat up any of the liquid in there, and rather than it taking forever to drip dry, it will heat up the liquid, make it evaporate. And you do want to dry the engine probably, you know, more quicker than rather than slower. And so I'll leave it running for about 8 minutes and then shut it off and you're good to go. So here's one last look at the engine. And that is what a detailed engine looks like. So in conclusion, those are my pretty much best car engine detailing tips. Now this was kind of a video, like a double whammy, because we also got to review the orange degreaser by 3D Car Care, and concluding in this product, it is a fantastic product. It worked just like I would have expected it to, no better, no worse, but definitely is a fantastic degreaser for engine detailing in particular. That's the only thing I've used it on so far, but the citrus degreaser particularly worked very well well in this instance. So if you guys want to get your hands on any of the products or tools used in this video, the brushes I used, the degreaser I used, any sort of things like that, from the cleaning to the dressing of the engine, I'm going to hook up all that stuff in the YouTube description box below this video. It'll take you to Amazon for all of those tools and products. If you use my links, it does give this channel a small commission, but it helps this channel stay alive so I can keep giving out awesome content just like this all the time. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, and if you have any questions, comments, concerns, hook up all that stuff in the YouTube comments below, because I always read those and I'm sure to get back to you guys as fast as I can. And if you're new to the Wilson Auto Detailing community and you are a professional auto detailer or just a car enthusiast who wants to improve your detailing ability, then definitely consider subscribing. Once again, thank you guys so much for being involved in this community, and as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, keep working hard, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Keep working hard, and I'll see you. Okay, babe, please, hold on. Keep working hard. You cannot do that while I'm trying to do that. Hold on.